The Buzz with Jess Lujan.
We're back with my in-studio guest, of course, Mr. Tim Rohr. We're talking about a situation there, of course, our Catholic Church here in Guam, now that the Pope had assigned an administrator to take over the Church of Guam. So, again, these victims, you weren't focusing on the alleged sexual crimes that are involved, I mean, that the Archbishop is accused of right now.
I didn't think there was I mean, I heard about them, but it didn't interest me, to be honest with you. It wasn't something I'd get my hands on. I didn't think anybody would ever come forward. It happened a long time ago. Sex abuse, stories float around. What I had in my hands was his lies about Father Paul, his lies about Monsignor James, his lies about the Jonier property, his lies. I had documentation for all that. I had everything that I could show about the Neo-Catechumenal Way and how they're working and how they grab property and how basically this diocese is completely out of the Archbishop's control. He's simply a puppet of Adrian and Pi. I had all that, so. But early on, about 2 years ago, I got a letter from a cardinal in Rome, a Cardinal Edwin O'Brien, who is the Grand Master of this order called the Knights of the the Equestrian Knights of the Holy Sepulchre of Jerusalem. It's an order that I belong to, and I just basically knew to it. But anyway, I got a letter from O'Brien threatening me to shut up about the Archbishop, or basically that he'll kick me out of the order. I said, go ahead, kick me out of the order. And by the way, and I sent him a dossier on Apron. I never heard from O'Brien again. But I began to think, why is it worth Apron's time to go to Rome to shut me down? And then I began to get stuff, and I realized that so long as there was nobody willing to speak publicly about anything having to do with the Archbishop, so long as that threat of you don't talk against the Church existed, his secrets could stay. He could do whatever he wanted to do. And that's when stuff started coming forward. And so he knew that he was in trouble as soon as there was somebody who could actually mouth to publicly what I was doing. And I bet you that he knew all along that this was going to happen. In fact, they kind of knew he knew was going to happen, because we already have documentation that in 2011 he was already trying to shield property because of the first attempt at lifting the statute of limitations on past sex crimes. So that happened in January of 2011 when that bill was signed into law, and they had already been working on trying to get protect property. And we have, documentation from Ed Terlahi, Richard Antolon, and the Finance Council that shows that he was trying to move that property, and that Attorney Ed Terlahi refused to authorize that because it would take it out of the control of the Archbishop. Well, this was exactly what they wanted to do, so because they knew what would happen. So there's a paper trail going all the way back. I have the whole trail, which is why I invite the lawsuits. I kind of get criticized sometimes for being too brazen about saying, bring it on. I know what I have, and I know what they don't have, So I'm anxious for it. In fact, them actually naming me personally permits me to turn the tables on them.
Now, here's the thing in regards to the accusations. Now, the archdiocese, the archbishop says these are fabrications. Definitely, these are lies. Of course, I'm going to get a prominent law firm, and I got an independent investigator, and of course, the attorney for Mr. Quintanilla had come out and said, well, wait a minute, can you tell me who this investigator is and what their qualifications are? Because they're going to have to sit down with my client who's accusing you, and I need to know, again, who this person is. And how could you, and to me, I'm going, how could one come to the conclusion if they haven't spoken to again, the accuser about this, or the accuser has not been investigated at this point? I don't know how you can come to that conclusion.
Well, Deacon Claros essentially got publicly embarrassed into actually doing his job, because the policy was so well known, and they had already screwed it over, by all these denials. So at least I guess he was ordered to give some semblance of actually following the policy. It requires him to make contact with the victim, the alleged victim, or his attorney, and to see to his care, essentially. And so Claros called up David Lujan and was going to, proceed with some, I guess Lujan gave him some instructions as to what he needed to do. And anyway, Claros gets back to him and requests to see what's his, and so Lujan says, I'm not going to let you talk to my client until I know who's talking to my client,
Yeah.
And it had a whole list of things,
Sure.
and then questioned Claros's ability to do even anything because the Archbishop has already poisoned the well of any possible movement forward on any kind of an objective investigation. It's impossible to move forward.
Well, again, who used to be in charge of the investigation, of course, Deacon Steve Martinez, he came out and said, the way it was designed again to protect the Archbishop and whoever else he wants to protect. And so the Archdiocese came out also and said he was a part of the Tim Rohr, I guess, organization to, fabricate things and part of the mismanagement of the Archdiocese of the cathedral and all that. And I'm going, so anybody that will come out, that will voice, one of the priests just recently came out and said, if I was being investigated, I would step aside. I think he was the principal of FD.
Father Jeff.
Father Jeff. I'm wondering because, Father Jeff had said, I would have stepped aside and the Archbishop really to step aside as well. I wonder if he would be later labeled as part of the Tim Rohr, posse of...
Absolutely. Again, they don't have anybody else to shoot at but me. So anybody that opposes the Archbishop, Tim Rohr. So I took credit for actually getting the Pope into my associate. Tim Rohr Associates includes the Pope now because he actually did what I wanted him to do, which was to establish this new norm that helps us to get rid of bishops. So
I took the baton from you and said he was at his request.
I want to quickly address though, because in addition to me, they keep trying to shoot at Monsignor James. They keep trying to go back to that, and they keep trying to tie us together, and they keep blaming Monsignor James for running up all this debt. Not a single bank loan can ever be authorized with Monsignor James' signature. Not a single dime can be spent with just Monsignor James' signature. It has to be Anthony S. Apron on every one of those documents, and I have copies of those documents showing Apron authorizing those loans that now he's blaming Monsignor James for. This is probably the most outrageous lie because Monsignor James is basically kind of sworn to silence at this point, and they know that. So they can keep raking him over the coals, even though you've had Joseph Rivera, the former, comptroller, well, he's still comptroller, I think, for one of the big companies here, and anyway, government, BBR, anyway, who's come out and listed the data and showed it all, Arda Logan, basically refuting everything the Archbishop is accusing him of. But they continue on this lie, and they've just ramped it up again, because now they're scared. They're running, they're shooting everywhere, But to sort of try to tie Monsignor James and me into finding some poor woman in Arizona who lost her son 11 years ago, who gave a deathbed confession about being raped by Apron. And we're that powerful?
Well, you do have some power.
Stupid,
And what is to gain that? I'm going,
what is to gain?
My question is because I'm asking this question, and I pose that same question to my producer, of course, King Conception, whose son passed on. I said, would you ever use the death of your family to gain something? What is to gain from that?
There's nothing to gain.
What is that? I mean,
Yeah, there's nothing. I mean, there's the statute of limitations protects Apron. It's a possibility that we can lift it, maybe, but the cost of a lawsuit would do nothing.
I mean, I can understand if there's a wrongful death suit or something, but I mean, something like this.
It is really, really sad what this Archbishop is willing to descend to. And Deacon Frank Tenorio with him, we already know about Edgevaldo, but unfortunately, Tenorio has somewhat of a good reputation because of Kamalan Karadat, but he just lost that. And I hope that Archbishop Hahn sees that, takes Kamalan Karadat away from him, because there's still people that need to eat. But there's people all over the place saying no more money to Kamalan Karadat. So we don't want poor people to suffer. because Tenorio's in bed with the Archbishop on on all of these things, and I don't mean literally, but
Take a quick break. We'll be right back.